Hello, welcome. I am here to tell you about our next Bible study that we will be starting. It's for spring of 2025, and we'll start it January 7th and 8th, and it is going to be on the Old Testament book of Ezekiel. Now, this is a more unusual choice. This is not a book that a lot of groups study frequently, and yet it is a really neat book and a really important book for the story of Scripture. And so I want to tell you about it and invite you to join us. I think it's going to be a really exciting and interesting study. So, Ezekiel was a prophet in the 6th century BC, and he was actually in exile in Babylon. The inhabitants of Judah, Jerusalem had been taken, kind of the top layer of society had been taken into exile, and Ezekiel had been one of those who went. And so this book happens in Babylon when the word of the Lord comes to Ezekiel. And so it is a prophet story. It is a priest story. Ezekiel is a priest. And so we get both of those perspectives. And it's all about the word of the Lord to the exiles there in Babylon. And we will follow Ezekiel through his visions that he has of the temple in Jerusalem and of the glory of the Lord departing the Jerusalem temple. We'll follow him through what are called prophetic sign acts, where Ezekiel acts out in some ways the words of the Lord, kind of demonstrates them. He has props and does these demonstrations to share the word of the Lord. And the kind of prophecy we're used to, where it is like a poetic oracle type of prophecy. And we follow all of these through the book of Ezekiel. And the first half is really to the exiles who left when Jerusalem was still intact, explaining to them that Jerusalem is going to fall and the temple is going to be destroyed. And then the second half of Ezekiel are about God's plans to save a remnant and restore the people and bring them back to Jerusalem and do a work of rescue for them. And so it's a very dramatic book. It's very interesting, and it has ties. The view of the glory of the Lord has ties to Exodus, to Elijah, to the story of Isaiah, who, some of Isaiah is in the same time frame as Ezekiel. And then it also points forward. Jesus has some of his teaching that really draws on the ideas in Ezekiel. And Revelation, which is our most requested book, which we haven't gotten to yet, but we're hoping to, and this is part of the foundation to get us there. Revelation draws heavily on the images in Ezekiel. And so I think this study is going to be very exciting. It will fill in for us the story of Scripture and show us God's heart for restoration. I hope you'll join us. I'm going to continue to talk about how our studies work. And if you already know that, then this is the end of the part that you need to watch. But let me tell you, in case you haven't joined our studies before, how they work and answer some questions that people might have. First, I teach this study 2 times. Both are recorded and both have Zoom access, but the Tuesday morning study is primarily geared towards in-person attendance. And so if you happen to be in Austin, Texas, and you are able to come downtown, we have parking, then you can come and join us for our study in live and in person. And of course, you can also attend by Zoom. It's just the technology isn't super great at combining in person and online groups. But that's okay. You can still attend. And then Wednesday night at 7 p.m., and these are Central Time USA. So, I always put in my emails how to convert that from Universal Time. But US Central Time, 7 p.m., we have an all Zoom meeting. And so anyone can attend that. And, everyone's on Zoom. And so the Zoom part works really well. So, if you want to join, I don't put the Zoom link online because internet trolls, nonsense like that, but I will email it to you and you can join us. These studies, they have readings and preparation questions that are designed to be optional. And if you want to do them, they will enrich your experience of the study. If you read the passage ahead, you will, it begins to sink in more. And there are questions, those questions are designed to aid in thoughtful reading, to like spur our imaginations on what this would have been like. What did this look like? What was this experience like? And also, what is the author getting at here? And so those really can deepen your experience of the study. If that's not your time commitment that you have available, it is great. You can still come. We read the passage in class. You will not be lost. You'll be able to follow along. And part of the reason I do this is because, all of us, we just have times where we can attend and can't, and times when we can do homework and can't. And so I want to make it possible to come. And I also want to make it possible to bring a friend. So if you want to bring a friend, they will not be lost. They can just join in the study. Speaking of times that we can and cannot come, everyone gets there sometimes, doesn't get there others. So if you cannot commit to every single meeting of this study, I still would love for you to join. Please come. As far as discussion, these are designed to be discussion stories. And so I will say, what do you remember from last week? And if you were here last week, you can say some things. And I always pull on those comments and like add to them. And so there's not a bad comment to make. During the study, I'll say, well, what do you think about this? And we will have people, I think this, well, I think this other thing. And we discuss it. It's good. One very common experience people have is deciding after class that they talk too much. And that's just not true. I want people to talk. The discussion creates the richness in the class. So I hope that you will come and I hope that you will talk. And if you worry that you talk too much, you are okay. You didn't talk too much. If you don't want to talk, I will not put you on the spot. I will not say, so-and-so, please answer this question. I will let you have the level of involvement that you are comfortable with. So you do not have to talk if you don't want to. As far as biblical knowledge, let's talk about that. Do you need to know a lot about the Bible? Well, these studies are designed to be in-depth studies, but to reach a broad section of people who are interested in going to Bible class. So I assume that you know some things like the Bible is divided into an Old Testament and a New Testament, the Hebrew scriptures and the Greek scriptures, and Jesus is the beginning of the New Testament. I assume you know some things like Israel is the people of God, and they had a historically difficult time following God. And Jesus came to address that difficulty. Okay, those are very broad, large picture, big picture ideas about scripture. When I reference stories that people may or may not know, like say, probably not in this study, but let's say I was talking about David and Goliath. Now, a lot of people have heard David and Goliath, but they may not remember exactly who David was. And so I try to say, David, the king of Israel in its glory days, who first showed up on the scene by being willing to face this giant warrior Goliath. Okay, that's enough information that you can follow the class. And so I try to do that. And if I miss it, please just say, I don't know that story. Will you recap that? And we will. And so, we try to get in depth, but we also try to remind everyone, because even people who have been studying the Bible for years, the Bible's big. It has a lot of stories. We don't always keep them straight. And so I will try to recap and remind all of us what those stories are when we talk about them. Those are the questions I was planning to answer. I'm very happy to answer more. If you want to know more about why Ezekiel, please let me know. If you want to know more about how the studies are structured, let me know. I will also add that those recordings do go up on my website. And so if you miss a class, you can always catch up if you want to, or you can just pick up where you are able to come into the next class. So all this information, the sources I use for my studies, these are studies that I do the biblical research, I read commentaries, and I write myself. And so all of those sources will be on my website. You can find all of that at deannamunger.com/Ezekiel. I hope you'll be there for Ezekiel, Fiery Throne and Dry Bones, a semester study for spring 2025. Thanks, everyone.